You are listening now to the Spirituality Now podcast, the show that is solely focused on practical spirituality, leadership, and mindset skills with the aim and purpose of supporting you master your life. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. This is another soul, spiritual, practical episode, which, by the way, I want to say, we are on YouTube right now. For those of you who are listening to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Amazon Podcast, Google Podcast. We are in Spreaker. We are in Sonos. You can tell your robot Alexa, play the Spirituality Now podcast episode, whatever episode you are interested in. We're in all of that. But I do want to tell you, I've heard a lot recently the term practical spirituality. And when you hear our intro, it says there, practical spirituality, leadership, mindset tools, all practical for you to apply it in the way of your own personal mastery. However, I've been listening now more and more the practical spirituality, and the people that are claiming that they are doing practical spirituality, this is what they're doing. Do these 10 plant ceremony journeys. Do these 10,000 hacks for your brain. Do these 10,000 things at the gym. Write these 10,000 things in your journal. That's zero practical. The purpose of practical is for you to do what you are meant to do in the moment. I always say that practical spirituality is literally, if you're watching on YouTube, you pick up a teapot, you serve a cup. I'm literally doing that. Wherever I go, I use tea. You pick up your teacup and you drink it. I cannot share more practical spirituality than being in the moment, doing what you're meant to be doing. And I think our guest today is going to be a testament for that because of the level of work, the level of discipline, the level of responsibility he has had to have in the contributions that he's doing for our humanity. That's why, someone sent me a private message of Yvonne's practical spirituality, but why don't you bring people often that are meditating in India? Why don't you bring people that are smudging? Why don't you bring people that are chanting all the time? I'm like, is that spirituality for you? I mean, asking for a friend here, is that really what spirituality should be? I think that entrepreneurs right now, like leaders, like Andy Frisella, I think he's one of the most spiritual persons that I've met. I met his wife, Emily Frisella. They are so caring, so good humans, so focused on core values and virtues, more than core values and virtues, that I think that's more spiritual than me telling you, and now breathe with your left nostril and see the divine rising from you. I don't try to mock anyone. I've been in all of these stages of spiritual life. However, practicality, bringing the heaven down to earth, here and now where we are, I think that's what we're here for. Anyways, at least that's the Spirituality Now. Not at least, that's what the Spirituality Now podcast is intended to and for. So my beautiful guest, well, not beautiful, handsome guest, I just say, pardon my, right now, Jason, we'll talk about this because I want your perspective. Right now in this era where I believe lots of society is really weak, gender talk, words talk, all of that, it's hard to know what you're going to say that is not going to trigger a massive response from the community, right? But let me introduce you to my guest that is here, Mr. Jason Pittman. He is an active duty U.S. Navy officer. Thank you for your service so much. He has been serving for over 25 years in the submarine force and had deployed on 5 different submarines. I mean, just grab your mind around that. From 2015 to 2018, Jason was the commanding officer of the USS HELENA, our fast attack submarine. Fast attack submarine. Jason is currently the Commodore of Submarine Squadron 6 in Norfolk, Virginia, where he is responsible for the training, maintenance, and certification of 6 submarines and over 1,000 sailors. Jason has a bachelor's degree in music education from the University of Texas. Through his experiences in music and his time in the Navy, he has developed a passion for teaching others and helping them find ways to improve performance of their team through the understanding of emotion and personal dynamics. He's married to his amazing wife, Victoria, and truly she's amazing. I haven't had the privilege to meet her, but I see the pictures in social media, how they celebrate their anniversary. And it really, you can feel the truth in his words, and has one delightful daughter, Katherine. So with that, Commodore, welcome. So it's the first time I want to say this. Commodore, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Yvonne. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm always awed to be in your presence. And I hope I live up to the hype that you have built for me, because I feel very small when compared with you and your practice and the light that you bring to the world. So thanks so much for having me.
Gee, you know, Commodore, how do you respectfully? How do your Marines? How do your sailors call you? Did they call Commodore or did they call you officer? What is the proper way to address you?
I mean, for you, my name is Jason.
Thank
When
you.
when I'm at work, yeah, it's Commodore or Sir, just because the title of Commodore in the U.S. Navy is just a title. I am a person in charge of multiple other units, so I'm a Commodore. But my rank is Captain, which is an '06. I have the little eagle on the collars for United States military. But yeah, so at work they call me Commodore or Sir. But my friends and just call me Jason.
Yes, but I still feel, I'm very huge. I have this obsession with this virtue, which is called filial piety, which is usually for parents. But filial piety is the reverence and respect you have for your parents, for your teachers. I feel that for Team Robert, that you and I met through Team Robert, right? And there's a sense of reverence and respect that is not done through the mind. It's done through, your it's natural to respect someone that has done so much for the country, for the planet, for your sailors, for your children, right? As a parent, as a spouse, so I feel the respect. I feel super honored that you are here. And I mean, and what you said about me, I was like, oh, I have so much to. I should go for one day of training with you and see if I can survive that, right? But I know you to be an incredible, genuine, caring person, and Commodore and Sir and husband and father, and also the level. Let's start there. Let me ask you something, because usually I start the show asking, so tell us a little bit about little Jason. And we did that before. You and I tried to record this and that didn't work. So that gave us time for rehearsal so that the submarine now can ship its sails in the podcast world, right? But I want to start with something, because how important in the ranks that you have achieved, in the incredible work that I know you are very particular in me praising you, because you do it out of a duty of your soul, right? That's my experience of you, that there's a duty of the soul that doesn't need to be praised, doesn't need to be bravo. There's a duty. But how important do you think to achieve and arrive is such a lukewarm word, into the levels that you have arrived as a commodore, as a commanding officer? um, how important is humbleness for the role of leadership?
I think it's really important. When I was CO, I had like so I used to have this little thing that I carried around with me that had kind of three phrases on it. But like the number one thing that I try to tell my commanding officers that come in now, because I'm in charge of other submarine commanding officers, is congratulations, you are in charge, and it's not about you.
Oh,
Hey, you've made it this far. To lead is to serve, nothing more and nothing less. I am here. The way I often tell my staff is, I am a weapon to be used liberally. I'm at this high level in the Navy, and so when people send emails, typical staff office kind of work, when people send emails like, "Oh, I don't know, the boss isn't going to like that. I tell them, yeah, I'm the boss. Tell people that I'm not going to like it if that makes them scared and gets you what you need, right? Like I am just a tool to help people do their jobs, to knock down barriers, to help other people achieve their goals. I have done a lot of work. I've done a lot of things, and I've managed to be very, very fortunate to rise to where I am in the organization. My job now is to give back and to help people be the best that they can be.
I was making notes. I was making notes. Those of you in YouTube will see like a pause is like, I'm making notes because, one thing is to talk uh, uh, about leadership with someone that is motivational, with someone that has lived their own life, with someone that has attained certain success in the business area, right? Or personal leadership in spirituality, but you are in charge not only of sailors, right? Let's say 1,000 sailors, I think we said, but of those thousands, there are 1,000 families, and of those thousands families, there's I don't know how many countries, how many beliefs, how many futures are there. So to hold the power of the humility to know that I'm in this job, congratulations, you got it, and it's not about you. I'm thinking of those 1,000 people. I'm thinking of the families left at home when you have to go defend your country, when you have to protect your, the code of honor that you vowed at when you join, right? So I agree with you. I think not, humbleness, humility, humbleness is a fine line there of differentiation, but it's so important for you to actually be a good leader. And that brings me to the next question. So um, when you begin to like when people begin to enroll under your command, what is the first stages? Like I am a new sailor, I'm under like your command, you are the boss. So what are the things, how do you help me begin to catch up with the leadership that you can see that I can rise to, so that everybody can work in harmony and protect a country? I mean, it's blowing my mind already.
I mean, at the end of the day, the protection of the country is the overall job, and so to try to answer your question, I'm going to go back to being CO of a submarine because that's kind of the place where I would get people, fresh from boot camp, as we say. In the U.S. military, you decide to join the military, and you will go to boot camp, which for us is in up near the Great Lakes, up near Michigan and Chicago, and you'll go through boot camp, and they'll kind of indoctrinate you. What does it mean to be in the military? What does it mean to be in the Navy? What's the structure? How do you survive in an organization that's very regimented? And then from there, you'll go on to some schools, but depending on what your particular job is that you signed up to do, submarines, for example, I decided to be a sonar man, or I decided to be a fire control person, or somebody who plays with torpedoes. You'll go off to your school to learn how to do your specific job. And then you will be assigned to the submarine. And then you come to me as the commanding officer. And now it's a process. Okay, you've been through the school, you've shown dedication because you signed up on the dotted line in the first place. Many people won't even just sign up for the military. It is an arduous lifestyle. It's not fun in many ways. And so you've already shown me that you've got some initiative because you decided to sign on the line. Now I've got to see what your capability is. But it's very important as leaders, I think, to set the stage of expectation and what we're trying to do. I would always talk with my sailors when they checked on board the ship and say, okay, here is my expectation of you. I expect you to make mistakes, which is very important in today's society because I think there is this idea that we can't ever make a mistake, and if I've done it wrong, my world is over. And so I come right out of the gate. I expect you to make mistakes. Mistakes are how people learn. I expect you to learn. Don't make the same mistake twice. I expect you to own your mistake. I am going to train you. we're going to walk through that procedure. We are going to make sure you have supervisors there. I'm going to do everything possible before we do the thing actually to make sure you're going to do it right. And you're still going to screw it up because that's human nature. People just do things. I need you just to go, hey, I screwed that up. And we'll figure out how we can, as an organization, get better. We can give you some training to make you better. And then we will all grow and get better together. And that whole discussion is just about alleviating this pressure. Because, I mean, the awe and reverence with which you speak about my job in many ways is kind of lost on me because I've been doing it for so long. I forget that it is that intense. But I have to remind myself that there are, these young men and women have joined the military and they've showed up in my organization. And to a large part, they're very scared and overwhelmed about what they've been thrust into. And so it's very important as leaders to go, hey, I see you. I know that this is overwhelming. It's okay. You're not the first person to go through this, and you're not the last. And you're going to mess up. And that is okay. We are going to get through this together and make sure that you are going to achieve. So that's the first discussion that I have.
Wow.
I'll pause there before I go into the next discussion.
Well, you just took me into a submarine ride just there. I wonder if we all, just civilians, will apply that kindness, that compassion, and that actually practical science of expecting your children that they're going to make mistakes, right? Expecting our partners, they're going to make mistakes, but holding that higher standard of, I expect you to be human and I expect you to own your stuff. I expect you to do the best the next time. Don't repeat the mistake over and over again. I wonder, I bet that I know for me, a lot of things will have changed in my life if I had that little twist of expectation, because you are so right, especially in the religious education or the just indoctrination at regular schools that is not military based. It's like, if you make a mistake, what happens? Bad grade. So we've been conditioned to be afraid of the mistakes that actually help us learn. So I love that. I love, if my son will ever want to go to the army, I will be like, go to sign up to get Mr. Jason, the Commodore Jason. So once they do that, and obviously you learn that through the process. So before we go into the next steps, for you to be able to hand that courtesy, that grace to men that protect a nation, I mean, blows my mind that probably some of them arrive really young emotionally and they mature in the process of the leadership, right? They have to become men or women of service. So how did you learn this, Jason? Because you have it naturally in you. Yeah, that reverence, that respect, that emotional intelligence, and we'll go over emotions at a stage in our podcast, because I know that that's huge for you. But who were your mentors? Or I know your dad has a lot to do with this. So where did that came from for you, for you and through you?
I mean, it's a great question. I'd like to tell you that I could point to people. My dad, is retired Army, and so growing up with him, there was definitely he instilled in me. There are expectations, and we meet them. If you make obligations, you meet your obligations. I hate to say a sense of duty, because it was never instilled as a sense of you have to serve the country, but it was a sense of honor. It was, if you're going to do something, you do it, and you do it the best you can. And if you fail, you fail, but don't fail because you didn't give it your best. And so he gave me a lot of that. And so I think that that understanding has been through my life of recognizing that people in general, Jason, I'm an optimist at the end of the day. I believe that everyone wants to do great things. Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, you know what? Today, I just don't give a shit. I don't care. I just want to get yelled at. I want to fuck this all up. Excuse my language, right? Nobody does that, but they will find themselves in situations where they had to make a decision real rapidly and they decided poorly, and here we go. Okay, is that because you are a bad person, or it's because I didn't give you the tools to be able to make the good decision? Right?
Wow.
People want to do good things. And as leaders, it's our job to make sure that they are prepared to do well with what we've asked them to go do. And so, my dad gave me that sense of honor and understanding that people are trying to do the best they can, or at least the hope that people are trying to do the best they can. And then through all my years of music performance and music education, where I'm teaching high school kids, and you're looking at them and you're just like, bless your heart. You're trying so hard and you just don't have it. Let's try it again. And you just watch them do it 3 or 4 times and you watch their brains work and then they figure it out. And that's where I started to kind of realize, look, everybody learns in different ways. Some people need to look at it and think about it and they've got it. Some people need to go do it and they've got it. Some people need to go do it a couple times and then they've got it. And as a leader, you have to understand how your individuals learn. Because if you only have a hammer and you're like, this is how we're all going to do this. Well, everybody that's not a nail is going to fail for you.
Mm.
And so you've got to be able to go, you're a nail. Here's my hammer. You're a screw. Here's my screwdriver. And you've got to bring a tool to them that's going to help them succeed based on how they operate.
Wow. Wow, 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 Jason. Yes. And I love this. So where did you, okay, so many questions, but where did you when did you decided to join the military, the U.S. Navy?
So I was going to college because that's the American dream in the '90s. Go to college, get a degree, and I wanted to get a music degree because I had been in the performing arts, and I wanted to give other kids the experience that I had had at being able to touch people's hearts through
Mm.
music. And but college is expensive in America, and
So expensive.
so I applied for a what's called a reserve officer training corps, but basically an officer scholarship with the Navy. Actually, I applied for the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force, where they will pay for school, and then you decide to. Well, you don't decide. If you take their scholarship, they will pay for your school, but then you owe them time after school as an active duty officer to pay back the money that they've given you.
Oof.
So I got a Navy scholarship to go to university, and then when I finished my degree, I owed the Navy 5 years back of active duty service, and so
Wow.
that was getting me through all of my initial training, going to all my schools and getting through my first submarine. And so I finished my first submarine, the USS San Francisco, in 2002, and then I decided to stay on for a few more years just to kind of figure out what I wanted to do, what we do with my life. Got a master's degree in education, and then like all good stories, I met a girl, and and I decided that I needed something that was going to keep me in the area. And when you start thinking about a family, you start thinking about funding and how you're going to support that family. And so I decided to stay in the Navy because I wanted to see if I could make one department a good place to be. The
Wow.
uh, the Navy, I mean, like all government organizations, like all large organizations, there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of opportunity for you to feel like just a cog in the wheel. And so I wanted to see if I could take one department, because I was going to go be a department head. And I was like, hey, can I make it where the guys enjoy coming to work? They enjoy what they do, and we're extremely successful at what we do.
Mm.
And I was able to pull that off. And I led a department. We got a lot of awards, got a lot of accolades. And I decided, okay, let's see if I can, earn the rank of commanding officer and see if I can do that same thing for an entire submarine, where I can make it where we enjoy coming to work. We challenge each other to be the absolute best at what we do. And we're proud of what we're getting done here.
Oh, I felt shivers. I felt shivers. I just saw the movie with my son, Air, the story of the creation of the shoe of the Michael Jordan,
Michael
Air
Jordan shoe, yeah.
Jordan. and my son was just fascinated on how incredible. He said, "Mom," and I love this on my son. He said, he was wondering where was Tim Grover behind the scenes in that movie, right? Probably Tim was there, probably Tim was advising, but what he said, my favorite part of the movie was that the person that saw the greatness in Michael Jordan to create the shoe, right, didn't keep it for himself. He celebrated it with the whole team. It was a team win. It was like, we did it. They created one historic shoe, right? That went, they thought that they were going to make 60 million, and they went into billions of dollars, 140 something millions, and then billions of dollars after, the long history short. But that what you were able to transfer to the people that you are working, that same capacity of like, hey, we reached this goal, let's go to the next one. Let's do what Tim Grover says, right? Like, done next, and everybody's growing. So what part, I love that your passion for music. I love that going into the duty and Navy. I love, by the way, can we talk about the word duty for a moment? Jason, I love the word duty. There's something I absolutely adore, but I love the little differentiation that you did right now for me. Says it's more than duty, is honor, and that it was like, that's what I'm here to learn from Jason. So what will be a little differentiation from that? The sense of duty, which I love it, and the sense of honor. What is the differentiation that motivates people in your teams or in other people's teams to rise and be the best because of that honor system?
That's a great question. So if I had to try to differentiate between the two, duty to Jason, right? Because I think there's these terms are both up to wide interpretations, depending on culture. For me, duty brings a sense of I need to do this because it's what is expected of me, and honor is something I need to do because it's what I expect of myself.
No more questions, Your Honor. That was clean, clear. That's practical spirituality, everyone. Oh, that's so, and that felt so good because I've never noticed that, right? Like I didn't notice the differentiation, but honor feels far much more. Yeah, it just feels far much more organic. It feels far much more human, and it feels, there's some duty in there. There's going to be some obligations and some responsibilities, but those are easy. Once you feel the sense, that's a virtue. I think duty is a discipline, and honor is a virtue. And I'm all about virtues right now. Like, if we can write the disciplines, the core values into virtues, I think the planet, and especially right now, the situation that is going on in the United States and many countries right now with all the things that are happening, that you probably have a specific point of view of that, and we'll talk about it at the end, mindfully, of course. But okay, so sense of honor, right? What is the, talking about music, because I know that that's a big, huge passion and call. Like for me, I do public speaking, meditation classes, help people with shadow work, family trauma and all of that. But my true, call is tea. It's very simple. Like, you do music, I play the instrument of cups and flows of water and tea. And how have you seen that music impacting your service at the Navy and helping you? Because I think that musicians, they have to use so much emotions, right? Going through a journey of emotional intelligence to be able to elicit different emotions from all of us who are blessed to hear the violin, the piano, the singing, the drums, the cello. I love that. I used to be a pianist, by the way, before I had the car accident. So I get the music aspect. So what are the roles of music and emotion in your role? What are the roles? What are the effects of music and emotions, right? In your journey as a Commodore, in your journey as leadership. How do you feel that these have impacted you greatly into be the leader that you are today?
Well, I think it's funny because I get that question a lot, just even inside the submarine force, because I am the first music major to be accepted into the nuclear submarine service for the
Oh,
U.S. Navy. Um, so, because it is a very engineering centric kind of community. And so when people hear I'm a music major, they're just like, wow, well, they have a lot of questions. And, and often I kind of get asked these questions of like, so do you feel like, on the boat, you're conducting like the engine room and kind of these very trite questions where I kind of go, no, it's nothing like that. Um, and in the past couple of years, I've kind of tried to really figure out why is it or what is it about my background in music that has been beneficial. And what I've kind of been, coalescing, kind of centering on is, what I loved about music and being a performer was I'm part of this ensemble, and each of us has our part. And we're going to work really, really hard to master our part and then master how our part works as the whole. But then the real thing was the interaction with the audience. You go, you work on your show, you're doing all your things. People have paid money to come see you, and they have no idea what you're about to go do. And so they're like, entertain me, take me on a journey. And you sit there through your craft to communicate with them and grab hold of a little piece of their heart and take them on a journey that they were not expecting to go on. And then you let them go. And you say, how do you feel about that? And so, as a leader, what my experience in the fine arts has helped me kind of understand, I think innately on a certain level, is to be able to talk with people and to interact with crowds. And so, I'll be giving a speech or just talking with my crew. I've got 150 people, 150 sets of eyeballs in front of me. And as I'm talking, I'm able to understand how it's being received and how they're reacting to it.
So you can
And
feel
then
it
start,
when you are speaking?
yeah, yeah, you can tell. I'm a weirdo, Yvonne. Like I can totally, like I can sit here while I'm talking to you and I'm trying to stare at the camera, but I'm looking at you and I'm seeing how you move and go, okay, that got a reaction, that didn't get a reaction. So let me
I'm
say
making a lot
this
of
next.
notes.
Yeah, but so I do that when I'm talking with large crowds and stuff, and when I'm
Mm,
trying to figure out, okay, if I say this, how are they responding? Am I giving the right message so that I'm getting the right response? What I talk to a lot about with my commanding officers nowadays is everything you do when you're in command drives a response from your crew.
mm.
You walk out of your stateroom with a frown on your face. People are like, oh, the captain's in a bad mood today. Don't talk to him. And it's just because you're thinking about a math problem,
Mm.
right? And so what I tell them is everything you do is going to generate a response.
Yes.
Don't leave that response up to chance,
Oof.
right?
Wow.
Like, and it's about understanding human emotion, and that's what I got from my fine arts training, I think, is hey, just being able to feel people and understand and go, all right, if I do this, you're probably going to respond this way, but I need you to feel this way about it. So I'm going to say it this way so I get the response that I need from you and
Wow.
not just throw something out there and hope that you respond in a way that's conducive to what we're both trying to achieve.
Which I think is most people, not all of the people, but most people we walk like that. We it's like I was noticing. I'm working right now on my spiritual practice to clean my lens of perception. That when I hear you, I'm gonna translate what you are saying through my bias and through my dogma and through my stuff and through my emotional, all of that, right? But I'm widening my mind and my sensory integration system to have another perspective and like to think wider, right? Not that limited. And I think it's an art what you do to actually be able to sense. It's like I can imagine that this is something that you do like on the sea, right? Like you got to sense the waves, right? You got to see the storms. You got to see how you got to predict in a way the future of that emotional wave. And in people, if you are able to communicate with them through that realm, and they are able to perform and to have the honor and to actually respond in a way that is conducive for success for everyone. I mean, that's mastery, Jason. I I haven't achieved that level of that because when we have strong personalities or we have a leadership that is more regime based, right, like more structured like this, it's sometimes hard to open up your own mind to understand emotions. So how would you what would you say, like, and I know this is like kind of a from 1 to 10, right? How strong has the emotional management that you do for the sailors, for the people that are under your command, how much do you attribute the success that you have had as a team from emotional management?
I'm gonna, if you're gonna put me on the spot and say put a number on it, I'm gonna say like probably 8 or 9
Yeah, go for the
because,
win.
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, so
We're
go
all
for the
in,
win.
but because it's a when you're trying to manage any team, and with what I do, it's an extremely fluid environment, and by that I mean the schedules change, the enemy changes, what we're doing on any given
Yeah.
day could have to shift. And that's, God, it's so frustrating to manage. And then I'm trying to manage the sailors and their relationship to their families. So
Yeah.
to your point earlier, it's like, hey, if I got to change the schedule, okay, I can change the schedule, and that's going to affect my sailor. But now he's got to go home and tell his wife and kids, right? And I'm actually managing 4,000 people, not 1,000 people.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
and
how
so
do
it's
you
about
it's a balance. Do you set a battle or a balance?
I was going to say, no, it's about just
Oh,
trying to figure out, okay, what is worth creating emotional churn? What's not worth creating emotional churn? Hey, do I want to tell these guys this if I'm not sure it's going to happen yet? Or do I just want to sit on that as the leader and go, this is out there, but if I tell everybody, they're going to freak out. They're going to tell their families. The families are going to freak out, and it may not actually happen. And so I'm just going to bear that weight as the leader and say, this is a possibility, but it's less than 50%. So it's not worth the emotional distress to my crew. I will let them know if it's more solid and just let them go about their day while I figure out what's actually happening. And so it's so much, I think, of being a good leader is managing the emotion of the organization and doing it deliberately. I think we talk about emotional intelligence in terms of, oh, Yvonne's having a bad day. Well, that's because she's, this type of person. Okay, that's true. But now you're the leader. You need to understand that Yvonne is that type of person. So how do you deliver information to her in a way that keeps her conducive and able to perform for the organization?
wow, this is more than, I've worked in family constellations for more than 20 years, which is systemic work, but I think you do far much better work than we all do. This is because this is really management of culture. This is management of emotions. This is management of the triggers that individuals have. This is management of trauma. I mean, the it's like, if I emotions are so, it's a widespread word, right? But if you put emotions and you dissect them, X-ray of emotions, it includes all of that: the past story, the past traumas, their expectations, their fears, their family's fears, and wow. So just to be able to lead that, I think your leadership, it's with emotion. I love what you said: deliberate emotional leadership, deliberate emotional management. I mean, the safety that you bring, even when you are going, I'm impressed that you said that the enemy changes. Oh, I felt it in my chest. But you are able to deliver safety even when you are in battle to the people that you are leading. And that is, for me, I thank you from my heart, because if one of those sailors were my children, I will want them to be with someone like you. The truth. That's the truth. So, what are some of the challenges that you see that on this type of work? And it's really a challenge global, right? But you guys bear so much honor and so much risk that people, we don't see it. We civilians think, "Ah, it's so great. I honor you, commander or commodore," but they have no clue. I mean, just what you just said to me, the enemy changes. I was like, dang, I can deal only with one enemy at a time of like, there is this, someone stole this money from the company. This is legal suit. And now you're talking to me about enemies, countries and things and bombs and all of that, right? So what are the challenges you see people in general or your sailors or in this type of work that you have been called? I really believe that it's a God chosen path, right? What are the challenges that the people face the most in your area, and how do you help them solve them or deal with them to lead with them?
I think the biggest challenge I'm seeing right now, and you hate to be, very generational, very get off my lawn. I'm an old guy and kids today. Um, but what I'm seeing a big challenge with is resilience. Um, People, they've signed up to do a job, and then they get to the job and like, this is not what I thought. Or for many of them, this is the first time that somebody has levied hard expectations on them. You will do these things. And if you don't, I'm going to hold you accountable. And by accountable, which is a very kind of harsh term, I'm not going to these aren't going to be bad things. I'm not going to like kick you out of the Navy, but I'm going to assign you extra training. I'm going to make you come in a little bit more. Okay, you're struggling with managing your time and you're failing. I'm now going to manage your time. These are things that I can do in the military. But what I see is a lot of young people, they have these like high expectations of themselves.
Yes.
And so, or they don't. I get a little, let me back up. I see
Yes.
two things. Either I've got one group where they have extremely high expectations. And as soon as they fail a little bit, they're like, I'm the worst thing ever. I can't
Yes.
possibly perform. And so they quit. And then I've got another group where no one has ever held them to expectations, much less themselves. And so as soon as somebody goes, hey, that's not cool, you should be doing better, they quit because they're like, I can't handle this. You guys want too much. And it's just like, no, we're asking you to do a job and you need to do it the best you can. And if you fail, that's okay. But you can't not try either. And so I've got these two halves of this problem that results in people quitting because they either don't want to actually try or they give up too soon because they think they've already failed and they don't realize that they're barely on the first step of the journey towards success.
Wow. You're so right. I don't know. I was telling my son, in the 80s and the 70s, and there was no like, you are ghosting me. You don't understand my emotions. Why are you look at me weird? You didn't like my post on Instagram. I don't want to talk to you. Have to go to a therapist because someone yelled at me. I mean, I said to my son, in my time, we really survived by our own skills, right? It was like you get the best grades not because you have to, it's because you want to make it to the university, you're going to have to, it's a must, it's a survival thing. Your father and your mother spent all their savings to send you to school. It was such a different generation. And I think that social media and the craziness of not holding people responsible right now, or like what Tim Grover always tells us, right? Like everybody gets a medal, everybody is a winner. Oh, hell no. It's not true. That's not reality. That's going to hurt more people, expecting. It's a culture of entitlement, Jason,
No, absolutely.
right?
Yeah, it's this and I mean, on a certain level, I get it. There is, and because it makes it hard for leaders
Yeah.
because you have people coming into your organization that feel like they deserve to know and they should know. Why are these decisions being made? Hey, not your decision, and therefore not your job to know. Don't worry about it. That's the decision. But in organizations that aren't the military, that becomes a communication problem. Okay, you feel like
Yeah.
you need to know. Okay, let me tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing. I mean, I did that when I was on the boat. I overly communicated why I was doing the things I was doing so that people would understand what my intent was.
Right.
Because that's usually the problem, is trying to communicate intent. But yeah, you get people that they just, because I don't want to be, the crusty old man that says, get off my lawn, right? I got it. We the people, just because you and I, the expectations were high, and mom and dad would be like, oh, I'm sorry, you don't want to study? Looks like you're going to go study. Um, you know, that wasn't, that's not that, just because you and I survived through what we did in the 70s and 80s doesn't mean it was the best way to do it. But right? But I think we may have swung the pendulum too hard in another direction, where it's like,
Yes.
look, I get it. If I care about you, I will give you those things that you're asking for. The difference is that the world in general doesn't care about you.
That's
And
the
if you don't
truth.
have the if you don't have the resilience to go, they don't care, and I have to survive anyway, well, then, I mean, that's a tough place to be.
Yeah, and do you think, I feel a lot of compassion, especially for the youth right now, right? That they're facing so much stuff. Especially again, I believe that the AI, it's such a great advancement for human civilization. Artificial intelligence, which is not artificial, we created it, right? Artificial intelligence, social media. However, the lack of training, how you say, the lack of education, the lack of this is how we're going to manage and use these tools now. I think that's what is detouring a lot of our youth right now. A lot of the, very talented people. But I mean, I think the type of leadership that you have, Jason, is for these times, is to be able to educate emotional maturity, to be emotional leadership. I think that's what you are so successful in, what you do in being a Commodore in your family. How hard, this is a personal question, and you feel free to answer it, or answer it, no, or not. You know, how, how has it been for your family that you are in the Navy? I've always wondered about. How is it for the families?
I've been very fortunate that my wife is awesome. Uh, and through most of my career, right? Shout out to Vicky. Um, Through most of my career, it's just been her and I, and so for better for worse, um, because gosh, being the commanding officer of a submarine, it takes all of you, right?
Yes.
Because now I've got 150 people who need me,
Yeah.
um, to provide that guidance, to provide that direction. Yeah, and maybe I did it right, maybe I did it wrong. I don't know. I did it the best way I knew how,
Yeah.
which was, I felt like my job was to be there for them and to provide the guidance and direction so that they could be the best people that they wanted to be.
Yes.
Did that mean that I was home as much as I wanted to be? No. Um, Now I've been very benefited by the fact that I didn't have my daughter until after my commanding officer tour.
Oh.
So now, yeah, so now I finished my commanding officer tour, and I have my daughter about a year later. My wife has my daughter about a year later. And that's been great because I don't feel torn. I don't feel torn by these 150 people that are, from my perspective, need me, deserve me. I owe that to them as their leader.
Yes.
Oh, but I got my daughter at home. That would be a huge tear for me because I'm such an emotional person. Now I've got Katherine afterwards, and so it was able to let me focus. So did Vicky have to put up with a lot while I was gone? Absolutely. Everything always breaks the second you go to sea, and so my wife's resiliency and ability to like find people of support, to take care of the house, to take care of our dogs, to take care of herself,
Yes.
while I was gone, was just immense, and I'm eternally grateful for it.
I love
And
that.
and so, and now that I've got a daughter, I still go to sea, and Vicky has to be a single mom while I'm doing that. and she just crushes it. And my daughter is, I don't think she quite understands what's happening, but she knows when daddy's going on a trip.
Right.
And, and so I'm fortunate that I'm at a portion of my career where my trips won't be 6 months long, which is
Mm,
a standard deployment on a submarine. My
wow.
wife, she put up with three of those, and I bless her for it. And
But that
the
makes a
Navy is a
team.
rough life.
Right, that's a team, and I love the depiction of the word team that says together everyone achieves more. Team, together everyone achieves more, and you are just sharing how powerful this team is, and I think that requires again a lot of emotional maturity, to understand that dad is going to oversee, and he's not leaving us. We are with him while he goes there to battle there. We are in battle at the home, right? It's like there's no he's doing this and he's leaving us. This is what we're here for. We are a family. We are a together team, right? And that's very rare, Jason. So, a couple of last questions. I am interested in hearing your words of wisdom. What you feel like right now, the situation of the United States, the situation that is going on in the media, in the so much confusion of genders, identities. I'm going to call this out, right? The little babies that the mom says, "Oh, I didn't want to have a daughter," and they put them in surgery to be a man or to just. It's crazy for me, spiritually wise, spiritual perspective. One of our main targets, a target in our in personal in wanting to be more aware, clean in your mind, illumination is to remove delusion, is to empty yourself from misperception, to clear your perception system, right? Like to have a good inner submarine so we can reach, all of us, the target, or we can arrive home. And I am experiencing, the spiritual resilience that right now people really require to have to be able to guide others that are in so much delusion is higher than ever before in the history on earth. So, in your perspective, what would be beneficial, like for our government? What would be beneficial for parents, for humans right now that are dealing with a new wave of that is emerging on earth? We are experiencing a new type of, I don't know if I will call it civilization. It's kind of the Roman Empire falling and being rebuilt at the same time, if you know history. So, what is your honest, as a leader, as a Commodore, as a father, as a husband, what would you think will be a benefit for humanity and the situation that we're experiencing right now for all of us? What will we have to do or think or focus on?
I I'm going to take it back to the beginning of the podcast. It's not about you, right? And that, because that's the problem that I see is a lot
Yes.
of the internal strife, a lot of the struggle, a lot of the news articles, a lot of the posts is people not feeling like they are getting what is deserved to them in any group of any organization. Okay, it's not about you. It's about us. It's about society being the best that it can be. And I think the more we pause and go, why does that person think the way they think? Okay, I may not agree with what they think, but I can understand how you got there. Let's try to meet in the middle. Um, we've gotten to a place where everyone has their ideals, and that's great. But they're so hardline about it that we can't find any middle ground because they think it's about them, and it's not about them. It's about that's what they always say. The you've got a good compromise when both sides walk away upset, right? Like nobody gets what they want when you have a good compromise, and we're at this stage where everybody thinks it's about them, and they're going to get what they want, and if I don't get what I want, well, fuck you. Well, okay, here we are, and that's why I think we're seeing what we're seeing is because we're forgetting that it's not about us. It's about what's better, the best thing for everybody. And if you have ideas on what you think is best for everybody, I think everybody should wear green on Wednesdays. Hey, that's great. Throw it out there. But you have to remember that you're not the person. It's about what all of us think. So that's the beauty of democracy. If you're like, hey, I think, according to whatever book I've read, everyone should wear green on Wednesdays. Let's put it up for a vote. It got voted down. We think that that's dumb. Then you take your licks and you try again later. But you don't get to get all mad because the majority didn't agree. That's what democracy is.
Right.
But we're in this stage where everybody thinks that they are right and it's about them. And I think that's what's causing so much strife.
Wow. Well, I think with this, we're going to end this podcast. You're going to be invited again. It's not about you. I know you are planning to write a book, correct?
I am. I'm struggling to get it done, but yes, I'm trying to take these thoughts that I am able to somehow articulate on podcasts and get them into the written form.
Yes, and I'm sure I can see that is going to happen, and we'll have you back in the podcast as many times you wish. And when your book is here, we will announce it. We will, because I really feel that the way you lead your emotional maturity is something I aspire. I aspire for becoming better at. I aspire this with our teams. I aspire this with my children. I aspire this just with nature, just because I'm so grateful also to God, to the Creator. But I think that what you just said, that is not about you, is a good reminder for us all, especially when we create strife where it's not needed, wars where they are not necessary, and just conflict that is going to cost us all, not only as individuals, but as a human civilization. So thank you, beloved Jason, for your time, tell your wife, thank you, thank you, thank you. Send a lot of love to your daughter and to all your sailors and to all the things that you've done for our country and the way you lead. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And that's it. Thank you for coming to the show. It was such an honor to have you. And for everyone else, we will see you next week again. Remember that we are in all the platforms. Please share us. We're a philanthropic-based podcast, meaning if you can see, we don't have commercials. We don't sell stuff. We really generally want to keep this as a contribution. I don't know if that will ever change, right? But as a contribution for humanity, as pristine and pure, we are produced by Brilliant Futures Productions and sponsored by De La Flor Teachings International. So thank you. Thank you, Jason, so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Yvonne. Always beautiful to talk to you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this new episode, and if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere where you prefer to listen to your podcast. Make sure to check the links to everything we mentioned in this episode. For more news, future or past episodes, or for any other inquiry, please visit our website at delaflorteachings.com. Once again, thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast.